Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region, and that's admirable. I'm joined by Darroch Brown, and we are headed into our fifth match of the day. It's Hunterace, our reigning world champion, sitting at a 2-2 record currently, and he's taking on Seiko, who is 4-0 on his first time playing here this week. How are you doing, Darroch?
I'm doing fantastic. This is absolutely my personal match of the day, the one I'm looking forward to most of all. We've got Hunterace, undeniably at this point, the champion of last year. Not only, obviously, that he was the world champion, I think he also played the best Hearthstone, had the overall best year with being #1 points earner, 2 tour stop victories, Hearthstone world champion as well. Up against Seiko, who just seems to be unbeatable at the moment. He's still to lose a game, I believe, here in Grandmasters at this point, or at the very least, to lose a series. He's doing unbelievably well, and I wonder if he's finally met his match in our world champion Hunterace.
Well, I do think that Seiko has showcased some very impressive talent in terms of navigating a match of Hearthstone. It seems like he has done it with a keen sense of what the opponent's attempting to do as well. I feel like his hand reading has been spot on. I just feel like his aggressive game plans in general have been spot on. And that's exactly what we're looking at here as well. As we can take a look at the deck list, it is pretty much aggression through and through.
It definitely is. It's a little bit less aggressive of a rogue than some of the ones we've been seeing. And interestingly enough, he is playing what has been dubbed Water Rogue. It was dubbed that by his opponent, Hunterace, who has invented this deck, I suppose, or at least teched it to include Sea Giants over the last week. A very recent addition to the deck, which some players have gone for. I think Pheno, Zalae, and Seiko are the main ones that pop into my mind. It could be pretty decent in this matchup against Mage, but I think it's not really the absolute optimum build of the deck, at least his primary.
Well, let's take a look at Hunterace's deck and see what he stacked up against. It's pretty much the good old Cyclone Mage. This has been like, he almost went extinct this week, and honestly, you can talk to me about the secondary and tertiary deck afterwards because there's some wacky stuff going on. But how do you think this is going to fare here in this matchup? I mean, there's very little defense outside of just a Frostbolt teched in the main deck here.
Yeah, it's not an especially anti-aggressive list with obviously no Rabble Bouncers anywhere to be seen actually in his primary, secondary, or tertiary deck lists. I'm still personally of the opinion that I think Mage is pretty good against Rogue. I know that's very possibly because of the fact that the Rogues I have been playing against on ladder have not been especially proficient in the matchup. A lot of the players have been saying that they think Rogue is pretty good against Mage, which is why they're bringing it. Swids, for example, in that interview that we just had. But Hunterace is so good at this deck as well that he is going to give Seiko absolutely no room for maneuverability or to make any mistakes.
What is the deal with Spellword Jeweler? I'm not making a Seinfeld joke here. That's in Hunterace's secondary deck. What is going? He has 2 Spellword Jewelers, which is Battlecry. Your hero cannot be the target of hero powers and spells until the start of your next turn.
That is correct.
A Youthful Brewmaster, a Harrison Jones, and I know what the Ice Cream Peddler's doing in there. I mean, that's who Hunterace wants to see the most, the Ice Cream Peddler in real life.
Somewhat an inside joke, I suppose, with Hunterace. After pretty much every victory he had last year, he went and bought an ice cream and posted a picture of it on Twitter.
And almost after every loss he had last year, he went and bought an ice cream and posted a picture on Twitter.
Dude likes ice cream.
A lot.
He really does. Which is, I mean, the Ice Cream Peddler is also serving a secondary purpose, which I think is to counteract OTK Paladin. I think his entire secondary deck is pretty much exclusively to counter Holy Wrath Paladin, which
makes
is
a lot of sense.
The first time we've ever seen that. Obviously, Spellwood Jeweler, if you can play 2 of those, even with a Youthful Brewmaster for a 3rd turn, they're never hitting you in the face with their Holy Wrath Shavala combo.
It gives you time to Ice Cream Peddler after you Ray of Frost your own minion and get above that 25 health mark.
However, he is not up against Holy Wrath Paladin, as I interrupted you about to say the exact same thing, I imagine. He's up against a Rogue.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like when you build a secondary deck specifically for that, you've made a pretty big statement of where you think you stand against Rogue. Either you don't anticipate players bringing it, or you think you're good in the matchup.
Well, he's got a tertiary deck for Rogue, right? With the Ooze, Doomsayer, Halftime Scavenger, and Vexcrow.
Yeah, I won't argue much about how I think that performs against Rogue.
Well, you don't think that's a good anti-Rogue list?
It looks okay.
I think it looks pretty good, right?
He cuts a Frost Nova. We've seen Frost Nova be really good against Rogue.
I think you're more afraid of them just hitting you rather than freezing their board up too much. I mean, I guess against the Sea Giant versions, it can be a little bit scary, but I don't know. Swampoos and Doomsayer are pretty powerful cards. As within the minutiae of this early game, we can see while things have been a little bit slow, they are most certainly heating up. The Kobold Lackey into Edwin Van Cleef puts a very, very serious amount of pressure on the board for Hunterace to answer.
Interesting turn here for Hunterace, though. So Seiko right now, actually, if the board gets frozen, has no way to answer the Sorcerer's Apprentice. So
true.
In my head, the thing that I was eyeing exactly was Sorcerer's Apprentice, Frost Nova, Ray of Frost down, the Edwin to an unhealthy life total, and then maybe use a banana or two to play around backstab.
Ooh, I think that's expending quite a lot too much resources for my liking.
Well, your other option is to take a bunch of damage.
Right, well, no. I'm saying that the Sorcerer's Apprentice Frost Nova play is very much worth considering. I would save the Ray of Frosts for following turns to refreeze the Edwin.
So the timing of when that happens is really one of the big paramount things. He needs to have better follow-up.
This is fine. I think as long as the Edwin gets frozen in some capacity on this turn, it's okay.
So again, the whole point is time it out better, figure out where your big swing turn is, actually swing the board. You don't need to answer it, you need to swing it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's just a pretty good fundamental aspect of playing this mage deck is whatever you're going to do, it had better be spectacular.
That makes sense.
Like, you have to do awesome stuff with this deck for it to be able to keep up with the rogues who are just piling on pressure turn after turn. It's very good at doing spectacular stuff, but you still have to make sure you're moving towards it.
Yeah, it's also very difficult to do spectacular stuff. I have found this deck to, be easily one of the hardest decks that I've ever played.
I fully agree with that.
I love how we go to Hunterace's turn, and as he begins to focus, the camera also focuses.
The Mountain Giant being picked up is very juicy indeed.
What to do?
You got to start being worried in Hunterace's position, though. And I'm looking at the kicker factor from Seiko's side, where he just grabbed a mirror entity. So if that Mountain Giant does not hit play...
God, yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, even then, actually, so if we sequence out how these draws are looking, we could see... Okay, Ziliax on this turn. I think Hunterace is leaning towards the same thing. Next turn, Giant Frost Nova, which freezes the board. There is very little removal in the deck for Seiko. He is not playing Sap, he is not playing Walk the Plank. There is little that could kill off the Giant with the Frost Nova that comes down. And turn after that, you go Sorcerer's Apprentice, double Conjurer's Calling, freeze some more stuff, bananas, just pop off.
And so that's really the thing for Seiko to think about is, if Hunterace is playing Ziliax this turn, why? And to me, this looks like he wants to get past this turn without Seiko doing too much.
Yeah.
That tells me that kind of want a mirror entity.
I hope you like my invention.
The 2/1/1s, I feel like... Ooh. The 2/1/1s, I feel like, are not representing a ton here for Seiko, other than he has the Sea Giant in play.
Yeah.
That is a double-sided effect for Hunterace as well. So I think he correctly
agrees.
identifies. Trade these off, no benefit to Hunterace.
Because not only is the mirror entity a good secret here, could be a counterspell.
And look at Hunterace.
He's scared.
Yeah, and he should be. This is very powerful for Seiko right now.
The weird thing is, though, if he knew it was mirror entity, I think he'd be relatively happy to just go Giant Frost Nova.
Yeah. I agree.
Because he gets an 8/8. So what? Seiko's board is already super threatening for Hunterace.
So I guess then, if that's the case, he could play Mountain Giant. Mirror entity triggers. When it triggers, you have Frost Nova. If it's a counterspell, you get to play Sorcerer's Apprentice, throw a banana, and then throw a Ray of Frost.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So playing Giant first is the way I like starting this turn, I think.
What to do?
But if it's Mirror Entity, would you rather give your opponent a Giant or a Sorcerer's Apprentice? So this checks for the Mirror Entity, but it also gives you the liberty of checking for the counterspell. You still get to freeze. And honestly, the deck from Seiko doesn't take advantage of Sorcerer's Apprentice the way that Rogue traditionally does.
Yeah. Hunterace still able to keep his hand lovely and full for the Giant Conjurer's Calling combo next turn.
This also sets up the ability to
Very interesting.
Archmage bananas. If you draw Mana Cyclone.
That's a good point, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, I think the Sorcerer's Apprentice is pretty much always going to die. But I mean, the miracle that it doesn't, like you said, Antonidas is looking pretty strong.
I wonder.
Yeah, I think the goal for Hunterace this turn was to go, you know what, I need to check the secret, and at the same time, I don't want my Giant to get checked. So why risk it now?
Right, because
I think it's really smart. Still got plenty of life to work with.
Okay. I guess the fact as well, yeah. I don't know. I still was tempted to see the Mountain Giant come down first.
Okay.
Book of Spectres is insane in this deck. There's hardly any spells. That's mental.
There's 2 Backstep, 2 Shadow Step. There's 2 Waggle Picks. Everything else is a minion.
Well, Vendetta is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vendetta. That's the one I missed.
And doesn't Book of Spectres draw minions? Or is it...
Draw 3 cards, discard all non-minions.
Non-minions. I wasn't sure if it was spells or non-minions. Oh, yeah, of course it discarded Jaina. Ooh. That's not a bad pickup at all. Hunterace now with a random card in a Seiko's hand. He is more afraid of Vendetta, which is, I think, why he'll definitely be tempted to go for Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn in order to make sure that the Giant cannot be killed off.
Sans bananas. Yeah, something I'm thinking about is if you decide to go with like a Frost Nova on the Giant, it dies to Vendetta and stuff that matters. So like Vendetta Waggle Pick.
Exactly, and that's why I'm afraid to just see Mountain Giant Frost Nova. If he throws in the... Okay, no. Actually, this is good because if he throws in the mirror image, it has to be exactly double Vendetta or a random mage spell, right? Because there's no eviscerates in the deck.
Yeah. Oh!
So if he goes with the banana, double Vendetta or Vendetta into Waggle Pick still doesn't do it.
Double Vendetta would do it because the attack from your hero power. But he's playing around Vendetta Waggle Pick.
Right.
At the same time, not using Mirror Image keeps the Sea Giant in Seiko's hand more often.
Ah, good point. Okay,
wow.
yeah. That's smart. That's really smart.
I don't know if this is going to work. But it's very impressive.
It's looking pretty good, right? He can take the value trade on the Edwin next turn, double Conjurer's Calling. Unless Seiko finds Deadly Shot off the Hench Clan Burglar.
Oh, why would you say that?
I've cursed
You know how casters work. Freezing Trap!
Can start a whole library of Spectres at this point.
Welcome to our library. We have 2 books.
Don't open them. They're full of ghosts, see?
That unlucky guy that came to the library. Of course you didn't draw any minions.
Now for Hunterace with, wow, the pickup of the Apprentice as well. This turn can be insane, right? He just has to be careful to not play into exactly Freezing Trap.
Hunter, but can you believe that though? Do you believe that that's true, or is this a bluff? This is a random Hunter secret from a Hench Clan burglar.
He's afraid of Snipe killing off the Apprentice. He's afraid of Rat Trap playing too many cards in the same turn. He's obviously afraid of Freezing Trap.
Freezing Trap's the one to be terrified of.
Right. And is it bad enough to the point where you don't kill the Edwin?
What to do?
If it bounces back to his hand, he will have 9 cards in hand, which is usually 4 up to 6 because of the +2.
Whoa! He calculates it and says, I think I have to do this, and that is not good for Hunterace. That is a disaster.
That is an absolute disaster.
And he's got to pop off.
He's got to do something real quick now if he wants to get back in this game. He's done it. Let's see what he gets. Whoa, that's not bad.
Well, I can tell you what is bad this turn.
Sea Giant backstab. That's a lot of damage that goes face.
It's
Good
a
Lord.
lot of stuff.
Psych, just play stuff, Psycho. Like, just get stuff on the board.
I mean, that's what he's doing. This turn's going quick.
Mountain Giant's still going to cost 7 on the following turn. It's unplayable with the Conjurer's Calling.
Hunterace visibly upset.
And I think if he didn't attack and went for double Conjurer's Calling there, obviously I could see Seiko's hand. I think he was winning if he did that.
That's hard to calculate, though.
Obviously, if it was Rat Trap that summoned a 6/6, maybe that puts him behind. Oh. Yes, I agree. Damage, face, good. Life Drinker, and then do you even Shadow Step it just to guarantee yourself more burst damage?
He's killing everything.
Wow. He's playing around any kind of Conjurer's Calling Khadgar nonsense.
Look at the damage. He sets up enough, I think, to threaten.
Oh! That does allow Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn.
It's 5, 6,
Oh,
ties up
it's
8
just
of his
not
mana.
good.
It's not enough.
If he hits Taunt, obviously it can be value traded. Sorry, if he hits Grave Horror, obviously it can be value traded by the Sea Giant. And if he doesn't, he dies.
I wonder.
My question mark is the attack versus the trap. I mean, I totally see why and
right.
how you make that attack.
What to do?
But I'm wondering...
I can't call it a mistake because maybe you need to kill the Edwin. I'm certain he's found a situation where he needs to kill the Edwin to win the game.
Right, well, he's thinking, if it's Rat Trap and I proc that and he has Vendetta or he has removal off of the Blink Box or removal off of the Hench Clan Burglar, then I'm in trouble. Oh, wait, he just played the spell off the Hench Clan Burglar.
It's just too wide of a range for something to happen. Like,
He's got to hit Frost Nova. Oh, that keeps him alive, I guess.
just keeps him alive a little bit better.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my. It's 17 damage.
Really blooming close to lethal.
So, Shadow Step, how does it provide lethal?
Yeah, I'm looking at Book of Spectres to find Leroy. Yeah. Oof.
Well, you don't even want those draws in Seiko's spot. You're
Right,
like,
I mean,
Dunzo.
it's still just bad though, right, to find that over 2 other minions.
Sure, but they're not in the way of minions anymore.
Fair enough, fair enough.
My perspective on it is that the purpose of the Book of Spectres is to dig for Leroy.
And it still did that pretty well.
Yep.
I agree.
Closer to Leroy.
So many options.
Hunterace is still not out of this game, though. If he could, I don't know, stick an Archmage, like if he can find some way to kill off or even just freeze the Giant and the Edwin for a turn, like maybe he can clear up the board.
So for me, the important draws are going to be Frost Nova, Mana Cyclone.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's about it.
Because he is 100%
Yeah.
dead next turn, unless he pulls off a miracle.
Ray of Frost.
That's a pretty big top deck, actually. We can see Evocation, Giant, Snap Freeze, or Ray of Frost, sorry.
Ray of
And
Frost
then
Hero
Conjurer's
Power.
Calling.
So I guess my perspective on this is I want to start limiting board pressure.
What, so you're thinking he doesn't play the Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn?
Maybe not with the Conjurer's Calling, no.
He has to put up a taunt of some kind on this turn, right? With Waggle Pick attacking face, he just has to.
I wonder.
Be that through Mirror Image or Conjurer's Calling on the Giant is up for debate.
Maybe he doesn't play the Giant this turn.
It's something to consider.
You know, I'm looking at like Ray of Frost, Snap Freeze, and then Hero Power the Edwin. Just set the Ice Barrier.
He's setting up to get that little bit of extra survivability. And maybe with some very fortunate series of draws, if he can find himself a Khadgar, he can wrestle this game back.
Seiko actually can play around the Ice Barrier.
So he's effectively at 15 health here.
Well, not effectively with his hand. Seiko can just play around it. He just gets to SI, Shadow Step, Eviscerate.
He does, yeah.
This guy's toast.
Wow. Hunterace. That question mark of the trap. Again, I don't blame him.
This guy's toast.
But it
things a bit
undeniably
different.
lost him the game. In
This particular game, it did.
Yeah.
But you got to think about the call overall. And is Seiko capable of bluffing a freezing trap in that spot? I very much think so.
Far be it from me to disagree with the arguably best player in the world, Hunterace, but it did look in that situation, maybe I'm letting the fact that I know Seiko's hand get into my head too much, but it looks like if he just went for double Conjurer's Calling there without trading, he was in a very good spot no matter what the secret.
You could be right. You got to play around ranges too. You know, I'm certain he's thinking about Leroy Jenkins. Certain he's thinking about
Vendettas in particular, I think. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that you have to think about there. And then also just if you secure that board and some of your stuff dies, do you win from that position?
Right.
You still have to follow up.
You're falling behind on value then, right?
Yeah.
Which is also a real consideration.
Really tough. He managed to hang in there for quite a while, though, in a situation where it looked like he was not going to hang in there for quite a while. So pretty cool stuff. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to find out which decks they're moving on to, which it looks pretty obvious to me. A lot of removal versus a lot of stuff to defend. So game 2 is coming up in our 5th match of the day. Stay tuned.
I'm Facundo Pruso, more known as Nargidan. My username is an Illidan reference. I used to play Warcraft 3 a lot. Illidan is my favorite character. Back in the days, I really liked watching RDU stream as well. After I saw him for the first time on some DreamHack tournament, and then I got to beat him on some online tournament finals. That was my first tournament win, my first prize win. That was a very key moment for me in Hearthstone. I think I'm pretty good at recognizing what decks are good and how to improve them. I like the Su playstyle. Some people think it's like broke back deck, but then you have a lot of things to master, and there is a lot of little things in that deck that, of course, you can draw 1, 2, 3, 4 and kill an opponent, but that's not gonna happen every game, and you need to know how to improve your odds. I don't know if other players already respect me or not. In my region, I think they do. I'm not sure about the other Grandmasters. This year, I really want to qualify for Global Finals. I quite didn't make it last year, so that's the main goal. I hear a lot of players say first season wasn't that important, but I think it really is. If you win the first season, you made it to Global Finals.
Hi, I'm Monsanto. I came up with the username Monsanto. I was in high school. It's from the company Monsanto, the big evil corporation. One of my teachers hated that company so much that at the end of the year he told us, well, if you didn't learn anything from my class, it's okay, as long as you remember that you should hate Monsanto. And that was like such a big thing to hear from your teacher, and I just immediately changed all my usernames to Monsanto. My best Hearthstone Esports memory was in 2016 in Summer Prelims. I was facing Dude 7597. I was completely losing on board as Druid against the Zoo Warlock. I had played 5 spells during the game, then I jammed the Yogg-Saron. It cleared his board, built myself a board, and the next turn I had double Savage Roar for lethal. What makes me special as a player, I think, is I try everything. I try every possibility in decks. I try new things. And so when there's something that went under the radar, there's a big chance that I actually found it and I can bring that deck. Being in Grandmasters means a lot to me. Being able to just compete another full year of Hearthstone, that was a really big thing for me. I want to win the whole thing. That's my personal goal.
Now Gudon and Monsanto will face off in the 5th match of the day in the Americas region for Grandmasters, which is coming up right after we're done here with Europe, which is quite a coincidence because we're going into our 2nd game in our final match here in Europe today, Derek.
Wow. It's almost like time works sequentially, and we've done our previous matches, and now we're in our final one.
It's kind of weird that time works that way. This time around, we're going to be swapping up the decks a little bit. Hunter Ace moved on to the tertiary deck, which includes an Acidic Swamp Ooze, a Doomsayer, a Halftime Scavenger, a 3/5 Stealth, Overkill, gain 3 armor, and a Vex Grub. He's taken out a Banana Buffoon, a Frost Nova, a Sandbinder, an Archmage Antonidas. For Seiko, we're looking at the Life Drinkers. They're gone. The Wagglepicks, they're gone. The Ziliacs, it's gone. We're adding in 2 copies of Betrayal, a Sap, a Walk the Plank, and a Big Game Hunter.
I definitely find those to be interesting removals in the secondary deck. The additions all make perfect sense. They're all just good against Mage. Against big minions, you want to be able to clear them off with all those extra removal spells while you push face. But I think losing the Life Drinkers and the Wagglepicks is quite a lot of extra burst damage that you can throw in the mid game, or even over the top of taunts in the case of Life Drinker to be able to close out the game.
You know, I kind of like it because one of the things that I look at was Seiko didn't really have that much trouble getting tempo. You know, pretty much any minions versus Mage often stick.
Yeah.
So what I look at is how do you compound that issue? And the way you do that is you have ways to fight off against particular types of turns for your opponent.
Yeah.
Thinking when they set up a Mountain Giant as board tension. Second one is you want to be able to fight off their prime turns, which is when they make a bunch of Giants. That's what Betrayal's for. Sap, Walk the Plank, and Big Game Hunter is the interesting thing to me. It gives you variety and range that your opponent has to consider playing around. And the second one is this is the kind of deck that wants to play Big Game Hunter. When you get stuff on board and you start attacking, the Big Game Hunter serves both of those purposes. It blows up the big thing and it keeps attacking. That's when you use Big Game Hunter.
Right. I do agree that in the instance where Hunterace throws down a big old giant and you Big Game Hunter on curve, that's obviously very powerful. Hunterace has been playing this deck very much in contrast to the way we've learnt most players playing it. He has been playing much more based on many small minions rather than all in on one giant early on. It feels like it's very much a facet of play that is developed by his practice group of him, Orange, Hunterace, War Control, when they were learning this deck and specifically this kind of matchup.
I'm still confused by the Sea Giants.
You're not a fan of Water Rogue? No.
I get the Sea Giants, I get why they're there.
It was good last game.
It was pretty good last game.
They could still be good this game. Like, as soon as Hunterace goes wide on board, double Sea Giant could be very powerful.
And that's the thing, you know, it's like that's where Sea Giants are good, right? When a player responds to your board tension with their own.
Yeah.
That's when Sea Giants had its biggest payoff. I found it to be quite good in the Rogue Mirror, where lots of players just slinging lackeys back and forth. You get to sling your lackeys back on the board, and then play Sea Giants, and just trade everything. Against Mage, obviously, you know, Mirror Image, one of the key ways they protect themselves. Oftentimes, Mirror Image coming down with Sorcerer's Apprentice and with Mana Cyclone.
Runs out on me.
Oh, that's a major draw.
It's a pretty good draw. That allows him to both generate huge amounts of value, very likely go very wide on board for these Sea Giants, and also very possibly get an awful lot of damage to just push face, which is what you want to do.
Hunterace's hand not too shabby itself.
How does he partition out the resources, though? Like, is this a Mana Cyclone turn with Sorcerer's Apprentice? Or is this just a play a giant for 2 mana on turn 4?
I'm looking at
Kind of
Giant,
turn.
Sorcerer's Apprentice,
Whoa.
and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, you move in this turn.
Yeah. This is yeah, 100%. I like this a lot. You can go Coin, Frostbolt, Evocation,
This is second spell.
Cyclone. Which means it will have been 4 spells by the end of the turn.
If he plays everything, it's 6 spells.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that Hunterace is interested in Frostbolting face, if that's the case.
Time runs out on me.
He still wouldn't overdraw any cards, right?
You could also just hang on to a Ray of Frost. I think that's totally reasonable. 5 spells, probably enough. Oh boy.
That's not bad. That's really not bad. Also, good positioning around Betrayal, it's worth saying. And Seiko now left without any obvious ways to kill off the Mountain Giant on this turn, lest he get, what, double Kobold Lackey here.
Why would you say it? You keep saying it.
Ooh. Hey! I guess he could have got 1 and then Shadow Stepped it. But...
Yeah, but now he gets to save the Shadow Step for the
yeah, he does.
for the other thing. That's not fair.
It's not fair. Spirit of the Shark is a very powerful card.
Oh, I think he's contemplating the Shadow Step and a Witchy Lackey.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. He could even do it on the Spirit of the Shark. But I guess actually, no, that's super likely to stick around, so yeah. I think actually just anything that involves protecting the Spirit of the Shark is good. So I wonder if he just Shadow Steps the Kobold Lackey to kill off the Mana Cyclone.
I think he's still considering.
He is going for the 6th drop.
It still happens twice?
Yes, it does.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it would change it, and then because the effect is gone, I guess the effects do technically happen simultaneously.
Yeah, it's like when you play it, it's locked in on happening twice.
It's a pretty big reversal that turn.
Yeah, not that much damage being put on the board though, which is very good for Hunterace.
It just killed the turn.
Right. No. It was good, but on an upside for Hunterace, it's not like he's dying in the next couple of turns now, right? He has the ability, absolutely, to find the time to swing this back in his favor, especially with a Blizzard, 2 Ray of Frosts in hand. He does need to find something pretty impressive though, because as it currently stands, this hand is not doing it.
What to do?
That's my concern, is I don't know how to do that. Like, I look at this hand and I'm like, I guess I'll play a giant. Like, that's where my head first goes. And I'm like, you know, it's because I'm only looking at a few points of attack on board. I'm like, well, they just got to keep killing giants. That's a great way to buy time.
I wonder.
Wow, I actually said something that I wanted to do when Hunterace, his hand is so trash that he has to agree with it.
Just giant.
Well, the hand is just bad.
Oh, this feels so terrible going up against Seiko's tertiary deck. Or secondary deck. I mean, like, if it gets big game hunted, you can just give up.
No, I think the big game hunter is actually one of the better ones for you, because then the Blizzard's actually buying more space on board.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm very worried about just like sap and stuff.
Well, pretty much any way to kill this off though, right? It basically ends up in the same thing of just you're pretty far behind. I guess with a sap, people wouldn't even be able to play the giant as well. And as it actually stands, this is a bit of a pain for Seiko to kill.
So many options.
He'd have to commit quite a lot of resources to get rid of it.
And honestly, I think he needs to be interested in killing it.
Ooh, that is a pretty good
That's
draw,
a good
right?
way to do it.
Icicle was already doing the 2 damage. Like, if he goes... there's no way he can do the Icicle and Witchy Lackey on the Mossy Horror on this turn if he wants to kill off the Sea Giant. But I imagine he also wants to play his own Sea Giants. I guess it's just too important. If he gets hit with Cadgum, Conjurer's Calling, the game kind of just ends. Well, I would say that worked out fantastically for Hunterace, given how Seiko has teched his secondary deck. Like, there's a Sap, a Walk the Plank, and a Big Game Hunter, none of which were found.
Yeah, I mean, not really much happened that turn for Seiko. Seiko slightly shakes his head after kind of having to sit back with the eyes closed, like, wow, this was just not a good turn.
Was it?
But, I mean, what option did he have, really? Like,
well, he could have gone Icicle and then Witchy Lackey instead. He could have got himself a random 3-drop. Or, I mean, well, actually, a random 4-drop, right? But going on the Evil Miscreant, maybe that was better.
he doesn't have an option other than... He has to kill the Sea Giant. He has to respect the potential of Sea Giant.
So the one argument I would say against that is that Hunterace, when he played his Mounted Giant, had the ability to go Conjurer's Calling as well, and he didn't. So maybe Seiko could have the read that he doesn't have Conjurer's Calling in hand.
That's where I'm afraid of the 5 randomly generated spells.
Right, I would say that's not a particularly strong read he can make because he's drawn cards and cards have been generated since then.
Yeah, we were looking at 7 fresh cards since that point.
I just think that SI7 Agent maybe has a higher cap of how good it can be later on.
Oh,
That's a pretty nice top deck. We can get any kind of half-decent 5-drop.
Hunterace cringes to the Spear of the Shark, too. He's anticipating it being much worse than it actually is.
It's
like,
really not that bad for him. As bad as, considering how bad it could be.
that's the thing, though, is you have to think about his perspective.
Yeah.
Which, that perspective might have just changed. You get to slam a Doomsayer against a deck that has, like, Walk the Plank and Betrayal and Big Game Hunter and Sap, and not really any way to handle a Doomsayer.
So he could go Ziliak's Ping on this turn, is worth considering.
There's two factors I consider for Hunterace right now. Number one is he needs initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, he needs to kill that lackey so that he can prevent like a top-decked High Spear and Togwaggle or something.
Okay. So he could go Counterspell Doomsayer Ray of Frost on this turn.
What to do? What to do?
Ooh. Does he ever take another Ray of Frost?
It's a really good card.
I mean, these are all pretty good, right?
My head is Ray of Frost is the best one.
I like holding onto the Frost Nova quite a lot here, given that it's against specifically Water Road with the 2 Sea Giants teched in. Oh!
I hope you like my invention.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
boy! Oh my god, for Seiko, that's so important. That's so important.
He's about to draw a card.
Well, yeah. Proc the counterspell first, I guess, just to make sure.
Hunterace's response to the walk the plank.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was either the word what or a swear word that looks like that in Norwegian.
Yeah, he's in trouble. He's out of card draw.
What can he get? What can he even get? Like, he has to get Arcane Intellect or something? Or Mana Cyclone, obviously.
Well, I mean, at this point, he's playing to the mercy of the draw. So I just kind of want to take this moment to point out. I asked Hunterace about this deck when a lot of players had submitted this week. I was like, I'm not really a fan of the Sea Giant in here. It feels like it's too specific. And I was like, what is it here for? He goes, well, it's a big minion. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's a big minion. And I go, can't you just put in, suggest a minion that's very efficient? And he goes, well, that's not as big as Sea Giant. And I go, but Sea Giant costs a lot of mana. He goes, that's fine. Sometimes it doesn't. And bigger is better. I was like,
he's not wrong.
I was like, you're making this seem very, very simple to me, where it doesn't feel so simple. But honestly, that's kind of the stage we're reaching. Seiko's just going to be playing a big minion. Like, it's kind of dumb, honestly. Like, it's just a big thing.
It is just a big dumb idiot, as I believe. It's
just
general
me.
expression. Don't be so harsh on yourself, buddy. You're not that big.
Well, I like big dumb idiots. I mean, they're funny.
Well, they're supposed to be.
Oh, see, that's rude.
All right. Are we looking at any possibilities for Seiko to go SI7 Agent and Backstab on the same turn? He could play an...
He could do those things.
Backstab the minion SI face, Sea Giant double trade.
There's Sea Giant, punch it, backstab, hit face for one.
Yeah, I guess then the question is how worth is it to get the SI7 Agent down?
Well, you can't get SI7 Agent and Sea Giant unless you just go out of your way to backstab nonsense.
Well, no, you can backstab it first.
You could also just play the SI7 Agent without the combo. I don't know why we were so tunneled on that. This always happens to me, too. Like, I watch someone good with Rogue, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, they just play SI7 Agent.
Yeah, this does. It's because the lifesteal messes up, because otherwise he missed an activation with the SI7 Agent, but because attacking into it would heal it anyway, he does just gain more damage at this point, so this is better.
Just actually just played a 6-mana 8/8. Just a big thing.
A frozen crusher, if you will.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
Not good.
All right, he can freeze. He can stall for a turn. He can stall for 2 turns.
He can stall for a while, actually. I mean, still at 29, has mirror image.
Yep. He can Pyroblast face as well, so if he gets 11 pings in, he is absolutely sorted.
Ah, you just wait till I hit 11 pings.
And this does now make you think back to the plays where he just played Mountain Giant, played Sea Giant. They just died, and now he's got something that he really...
I think if he had not done those, that Hunterace would have just died.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. It's a situation I always get into where I try and find these plays that they could have done better to win the game. But for Hunterace, like,
I
played
think
pretty well.
I think he's potentially 1 or 2 draws away from being able to turn this around. I'm looking at Stargazer Luna. I'm looking at Mana Cyclone.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a Mountain Giant.
Archmage
heck,
Antonidas is gone.
Like Sandbinders. Yeah, Archmage is gone to this point. Vex Crow would be a fine draw in this spot.
Another Sea Giant here is really just a bit of a nightmare for Hunterace. Evil Cable Rat, yeah.
Just extra stuff to do. The Cable Rat's mostly threatening due to Spell Lackey, I imagine. Oh my, why did I say it? I just lectured you about this. Head Crack! Head Crack's actually good in this spot.
It probably is just Head Crack. I agree. Or is it Sap? Actually, Sap could be really good, right? Like,
You got Betrayal in hand already.
that's true.
Start working on that Railroad.
What if he plays a Giant and then freezes, right? That's what you're afraid of.
Yeah, true story.
Because you want to be able to make sure that they can't go Giant Frost Nova and then Khadgar Conjurer's Calling on the following turn.
That's a very true story.
Was that a Banana Buffoon?
Yeah, it was.
Woof.
Okay, so Banana Buffoon, Frost Nova. Do you rip Callings or not? Because right now you have Pyroblast in hand. So what I'm looking at is
Double Mookla.
seriously, like I'm not even kidding. You have 2 bananas that you're getting from hand. Like you could play this Frost Nova, Conjurer's Calling, see what you get, banana preemptively. Like there is a potential for Hunterace to win from this spot.
Yes.
What to do? What to do?
And he's at 28 too. I mean, he actually can just take a full shot from board and not die. So he actually has like 2 turns to get this done.
Time runs out on me.
And he's taking advantage of that, holding back on the Frost Nova again. He's realizing if he's going to win this game, he has to go top deck something big, play it with Frost Nova, Conjurer's Calling it the turn after. I think is his game plan here by holding on to the Frost Nova.
Well, now he's under threat of lethal.
Or rather, even if he doesn't have to top deck something big, he has to play Conjurer's Calling, Minion, Frost Nova pretty much all in the same turn.
Magic Trick can provide another freeze effect.
Yeah, I guess that's the best he's looking for, just another Frost Nova, really.
I think a second Frost Nova here is very strong. That's not very strong.
Book of Spectres. Book of Spectres could be good.
Oh, I'm thinking like Astral Rift.
You're thinking Astral Rift over Book of Spectres?
What minions is he drawing from the Book of Spectres?
I don't know, Mountain Giant?
So let's say he draws like 3 minions with Mountain Giant, right? The Mountain Giant costs 4 mana, so he has 7 mana left. He plays Mountain Giant Frost Nova, right? We have a sap on Seiko's side for that. I'm actually thinking
right,
that...
but he can't live in that world, right? Something has to go right for him. And I think that something that goes right for him is sticking a Giant.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. Also thinking of Book of Spectres into Mana Cyclone for the Elemental Evocation. Ooh, Cyclone.
Yep, this is how it's going.
Oh, wow. This is a big turn.
It's a powerful turn.
This Mana Cyclone's so important. The Mana Cyclone fetches the Fireball, but that's not enough.
Can he ever set up lethal? He's taken out one of his Frost Novas from the deck, so he has no more freeze effects available.
Hunterace needs help.
I mean, he's kind of getting close to going for Conjurer's Calling on the evil Cable Rat to try and hit Doomsayer is really where we're approaching
I
this point.
really don't want to meet that territory, but that might
Neither
be the
does he.
territory we're in.
Unless he can find a way to freeze the board here, or at least stall things out.
He needed one more turn.
If he attacks face here, fireballs face and then goes double Conjurer's Calling, is there anything he could hit to stay alive? It would have to be like quadruple Tazdingo.
Which then you got to think about Seiko's hand. I think a Doomsayer on your opponent's 2-drop is more likely.
It's more likely.
Any weird, unexpected results things that can happen?
Doomsayer would obviously die before it gets... Oh, you'd be dead before it gets to your turn.
So if you unexpected results and you get in order Direwolf Alpha Bluegill Warrior, how much damage is that? 4, 5, 6, 7 plus the Fireball. That's not enough.
I think he's got to rely on Conjurer's Calling for his own minions.
So he's
Provides
attacking
extra
this to provide space for the second chance of Conjurer's Calling.
He's all
literally
in on the
going
Doomsayer. One more shot.
So you get to hero power and do it again.
2 more shots, actually, if he wanted to. Because he can just do it on a single slot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw the red.
I thought that was it.
He's got to go for it. It has to be Doomsayer. Seiko 2-0 over Hunterace.
Not even our Hearthstone world champion can stop Seiko in Grandmasters.
Is he 10-0 game score now?
I think he is.
10-0, 5-0. What the heck?
I mean, he's playing some good Hearthstone, right?
Yeah.
You've got to feel for Hunterace, though. Creating the Sea Giant Water Rogue and then just being absolutely destroyed by it in the first game afterwards in Grandmasters.
I think he just got beat up by Rogue, honestly.
Pretty
I
much.
feel like almost every Rogue deck would have been apt in this situation. And
This is
one,
more poetic.
it is more poetic. I can always appreciate that. Double Sea Giant. They didn't even do anything impressive that game. They were just literally, it was exactly
just
what he told
stuff.
me, where as soon as he told me that, I went, okay, I don't like that then. He's like, oh, it's a big thing. It's bigger than the other things that you play.
It was a very big thing. It was relatively cheap as well.
Well, the first one was like 7 mana, 6 mana.
6 mana. I'd play a 6 mana A8. Actually, maybe I wouldn't. Yeah.
As long as it didn't freeze itself, I might. We got an interview with Seiko. Seiko, can you hear us?
Yeah, hey guys.
Hey, congratulations. Wow, this is a pretty impressive start to Grandmasters. You are 10-0 in game score and 5-0 in matches. Are you ever going to lose again?
I expected to lose today, actually.
Why is that?
I played the series like at least 10 times against myself, and I didn't want a single one, so I really expected to lose today.
So what happened differently in your series that you were practicing versus this one that happened here? Obviously, other than you just killing him, but like, what were the major differences? What are the key factors?
I think I needed him to draw really, really badly. Like, I just couldn't win a single game, a single series. I won some games, but I always lost the series. Like game 1 is really hard without text, and then I always go 0-1, and then I was pretty much shaking the whole time against Hunterace because I knew that it's hard to beat him today. So I'm happy that it worked out.
Well, I mean, so are we. Having another win for you here is very impressive indeed, especially as it didn't even look like Hunterace's draws were that bad. You were just playing pretty well and beating him up.
I don't know. I think I need to rewatch. Like, it must have been bad, I think.
Well, I'm sure you can find some ways to improve. There's always a way to play a little bit better. But I want to ask you about your deck with the Sea
no,
Giants.
not the plays. I meant to draw, I mean.
Oh, right, okay.
Not
Yeah, never question Seiko's plays, Derek.
I've learned my lesson now. As with your deck with 2 Sea Giants in there, that was, I believe, created by Hunterace. Did he talk to you about that lineup, or did you just see him playing it and copy it from him? Or was it coincidental that you both ended up on Sea Giants?
No, I actually started without Sea Giants, and then I started prepping with Fino, and he really liked the Giants, so we added them and cut the burn cards, which isn't cutting burn isn't great against mage. Actually, it's easier to just kill them. So I was quite worried today because we cut a double Abyss, we cut a Drinker, I think, like all the burn. Like we always have to outvalue the mage, and that's really hard.
Is that why your tertiary deck is built the way it is for Warrior? I mean, I'm looking at Barista, Growl the Shark, Harrison Jones, and Geppetto Joybuzz. I imagine this is specifically for Warrior.
Yeah, like pretty much all the decks are against Worry, but the tertiary is a bit more against Worry.
Well, all right, Seiko. I think it's going to wrap it up for us. It's been pretty darn impressive to watch you play. I think that you have had an extremely clear game plan and have been executing it, and I've been seeing some stuff that I didn't spot and looked incredible when you actually put it on the board. Congratulations on your win here and on your undefeated start here in Grandmasters.
Thanks. See you.
Bye-bye.
How dare I question his plays?
How dare you question his plays?
Am I 5-0
was
in
offended.
Grandmasters?
I was offended.
I'm not. Seiko is, though. Along with Fino, they are now both 5-0, I believe, in game score so far, or series score.
Yeah, he prepared with the fellow undefeated player in European Grandmasters here. Surprise.
Sorry, I'm being distracted. Let's go to standings to see how Europe is
Derek
looking.
is taking over the host role because he's so distracted.
Frodan has broken me. I'm ignoring him for the moment. As we can see here, Seiko going up to 5-0, joining Fino at an undefeated record now in Grandmasters. Down at the bottom end, Swid's picking up his first win in Grandmasters here today, which is absolutely crucial if he's going to have any chance whatsoever of pulling his way back into playoffs contention. With Hunterace is now dropping down to 2 and 3 out of the top 3 players, which is definitely not where he was wanting to be after his very good year last year.
Chance to pick it back up tomorrow, though. All the players you see with just a 5-match record under their belts, they're going to be playing again tomorrow on our 3rd day of Grandmasters this week. We have 3 days every single week for every region that's coming up, which means that after our 5th match today, we are donezo for now. But we got to go to the post and then ship it over to the Americas where they'll be playing their 5 matches. So stick around. Frodan and TJ are whizzing up.